Hi, it's Naomi Wolf. I'm talking today about what I'm going to be addressing when I am speaking at the OMX conference in San Francisco the weekend of the 28th and the 29th of March. I'm excited to be there. It's the first time I'll be talking about the emergence of the feminine globally as an historical force. Believe it or not, I'm actually going to be talking about the emergence of the divine feminine, which is a concept that was very controversial, which fascinated me in my writings recently. And interestingly to me, it's really only controversial in the West. Most other cultures, actually all other cultures, going back to the beginnings of culture, have a concept of the divine feminine. And I do believe more and more, and many other cutting-edge thinkers and theologians and philosophers, even philosophers of technology, political analysts are becoming persuaded that the loss of this cultural concept of the divine feminine is one reason the West is so messed up right now, that we're able to annihilate the natural world without being aware that we're annihilating ourselves, that we're able to engage in a sense of devaluation of the roles that women play, the role of nurture in general in culture, in a way that's so harmful to us. The kind of aggressive individualism and materialism of the West is kind of, in my view, and a lot of people's view, increasingly in contradistinction to a concept of the divine feminine. And that's not to essentialize women, but I do think there's a lot to learn from the ways in which the feminine principle has been and is venerated around the world, and what women contribute is valued. I was recently in India, for instance, at the Lit for Life festival that the Hindu put on, which is a big and important newspaper. And I was really struck that even in letters to the editor in India, and in shrines, and in roadside kind of pop culture imagery, posters that people put up on the walls, there's such a presence of goddesses. Everywhere you looked, there were manifestations or references to variations in ways that women can be powerful in a positive way. And so I remember reading letters to the editor, referencing these different goddesses, and it was just like referencing cultural reminders of all the different ways that feminine power can manifest positively. And we really, in the West, we lack images of female power that are positive, let alone, qualities like nurturing and, supporting, sustaining life, beauty, decorating, homemaking. Those are never held up as models of power. I want to show you an image that I got in, I love this. I got this in in New Orleans, which has a really long history of syncretizing religions. What people often ignorantly call voodoo is actually a syncretic combination of African archetypes and Catholic archetypes. And I got this in a store devoted to that kind of archetypal imagery, and it's a common combination of images in New Orleans for the divine feminine. And here you see, Mary, who we're all familiar with, but this is the Black Madonna, and I'm going to be talking about the Black Madonna in my presentation at the end of the month, and I'll talk about her in a minute. But here you see like an image of, the divine feminine related to abundance and nurturing and feeding. How many woman hours are spent all over the world with women feeding and thinking about what's for dinner and buying it and shopping for it or growing it or harvesting it, preparing it, cleaning up after it, just to keep people fed. I mean, that is such an extraordinary contribution to the planet and the species. No one ever says, God damn it, Mom, thanks for shopping for everyone and feeding everyone, or growing the food, or cutting down the cassava or root, or digging it out with your hands. I mean, what would we be without the women feeding everybody? Just a moment to think about the divine power in that. And here's an archetype. I actually need to find out where it's from originally, because it looks like it's got a Mexican flag behind it. But you often see this bare-breasted image of freedom or liberty. You saw it in France also at the end of the 18th century. a bare-breasted kind of principle of liberty, a goddess of liberty. And she's armed. She's got a bandolero, and she's got a musical instrument there and a rifle. And I'm not a violent person, but it's that iconography of woman as liberator, or that power for creating change, confronting the enemy, confronting evil, making the world better. And of course the more classical, familiar image of this Madonna that everyone's familiar with in the West, the one I don't really relate to that much, the sort of passive, quiet, meek, more traditionally feminine Madonna image. But all of them together, I mean, I think it takes at least four, aspects of the goddess to kind of begin to manifest all the different ways in which women preserve, protect, defend, nurture, build. But I want to talk very briefly about the Black Madonna, and I'll be going into her in some detail. Now, when I researched the Black Madonna, which I actually dreamt about without knowing a thing about the Black Madonna, I was amazed. I actually had this dream when I was in India, because there's a huge theological backstory to the Black Madonna. There are Black Madonnas across Europe, and often their skin has been assumed to have been blackened by smoke from candles, but there are also Black Madonnas in like Russian Orthodox icons that no one can understand, like why is their skin black? And when you research the Black Madonna, it turns out that this is actually a pagan influence on Catholicism that has lasted for 2,000 years. And what it is Isis. It's the shadow of the goddess. It's the aspect of the goddess that is about what's hidden, what's submerged, the unconscious, those parts of ourselves and of the world that we can't bring ourselves to confront, what Jung called the shadow. And that the Black Madonna is this kind of subterranean or subversive tradition of Isis surviving, underneath, here she is, underneath the Western tradition of the kind of meek, submissive, quiet version of the Madonna. And the Black Madonna is the deification, the reverencing of the act of confronting this energy that's hidden, or the shadow of ourselves, or the dark places that we don't want to go. And of course, the case I'm going to be making this coming weekend is that now is the time to go there. That the Black Madonna is the archetype of our time. We really need to know about the Black Madonna and think about the Black Madonna and the tradition that she represents. And to me, I would also associate this with the redemption of the degraded and defiled and abused aspects of female sexuality. That reverencing that is also part of the Black Madonna tradition. Although that's my reading and my interpretation. But the Black Madonna, if we're going to heal the planet, if we're going to lay to rest old models of national and ethnic conflict, if we're going to recognize our interdependency with each other, we have to face what's hidden. We have to face the secrets and hypocrisies that societies insist that we tell ourselves and each other. We'll have to face our own tendencies toward violence and distortion of the truth and our attraction to lies, our defenses. We're going to have to face what's really true. Secrets, family secrets, violence people have done in our families, assaults, cruelties, ways that people suppress other people's freedom and don't want to acknowledge it. All of that has to come out and be dealt with if we're going to heal ourselves and heal the planet. And that's the work of the Black Madonna. And I see it happening all over the world, and I'll be talking about that and the importance of that this weekend after next in San Francisco.